By the early 1970s, motocross was exploding across America. What started as a European curiosity, a few muddy races with strange bikes from Sweden and Czechoslovakia, had become the new stage for young riders hungry for dirt, noise, and glory. Weekend warriors were trading in their street bikes for machines built to fly, light, tall, stripped down, and ready to race. Names like Husqvarna, CZ, and Maiko ruled the tracks, their two-strokes howling across fields from California to Florida. To win, you didn't just need guts, you needed a bike built for battle. Suzuki saw it coming. Fresh off Grand Prix victories with legends like Joel Robert and Roger DeCoster, the company had tasted world domination and wanted to bring that same power to American riders. Inside the factory, someone asked the question that started it all. Why not sell a bike that feels just like our factory racers? The answer was the Suzuki TM400 Cyclone, a 400cc open-class motocrosser designed to bridge the gap between pro and amateur. It wasn't just another dirt bike. It was Suzuki's promise to deliver factory-developed power straight to your backyard. The brochures said it all. Factory-developed power available to you. The photos showed a rider launching through the air, rooster tails of dirt exploding behind him, blue smoke curling from the exhaust. The message was clear. You too could be a champion. The specs alone were enough to make any rider's pulse quicken. The Suzuki TM400 Cyclone packed a 396 cubic centimeter single-cylinder two-stroke engine, air-cooled and hungry for throttle. Power output hovered around 38 to 40 horsepower, a massive figure for the early 70s, and all of it sat in a bike weighing barely 220 pounds dry. A 5-speed gearbox and a big carburetor promised instant, high RPM response. On paper, it looked unstoppable. Its frame was a tubular steel cradle, simple, strong, and lightweight, but never designed to handle that much torque. Suspension came in the classic twin shock setup, long travel by the standards of the day, yet still tuned for smoother, older-style tracks. Drum brakes front and rear handled stopping duties, adequate back then, but a challenge once the Cyclone really started to move. Visually, it was irresistible. The slim gas tank, bright yellow and white or red and silver livery, and bold 400 side panels gave it the look of a true factory racer. The expansion chamber exhaust bulged like a muscle along the bike's side, announcing that this was no toy. The tall seat and wide handlebars made it feel ready for the starting gate before you even fired it up. Fast, light, race-ready, and cheaper than its European rivals, the TM400 looked like the perfect open-class motocrosser. On the brochure, it was the future, but as riders soon learned, the future had a dark side. So how did this dream machine become one of the most feared bikes of its time? Once the engines fired, the truth hit fast. The TM400's beauty on paper turned savage in the dirt. Its two-stroke powerband was brutally narrow and violent. Calm one moment, catastrophic the next. Below mid-range, it felt sluggish, almost polite, lulling riders into a false sense of control. But twist the throttle past that midpoint, and the Cyclone lived up to its name. The power came alive like someone had flipped a light switch from off to detonate. That violent surge made every corner a gamble. Roll the throttle a hair too hard, and the rear tire would break loose, fishtailing wildly. Try to correct it, and the front end might shoot skyward instead. Riders described it as having no middle ground. It either crawled or exploded. The chassis couldn't keep up. The tubular steel frame flexed under stress, twisting during landings or rough terrain, until the handling turned vague and unpredictable. The rear twin shocks, outdated even then, had a nasty habit of kicking on bumps, sending the tail sideways just as the rider fought for balance. And those drum brakes? Fine for a trail bike, terrifying for a 40-horsepower missile on knobby tires. Then there was the riding position. Tall seat, high center of gravity, and wide bars. For the average rider, it was like trying to tame a wild horse on stilts. The moment that explosive mid-range hit, The TM400 could yank the bars from your hands or toss you backward before you even knew what happened. Veterans still compare it to other open-class beasts: Yamaha's IT400, Honda's CR480, Kawasaki's KX450. But while those bikes were wild, the TM400 was unreadable. No warning, no pattern, just sudden, brutal force. It wasn't unreliable, it wasn't poorly built, it was worse. It betrayed you the instant you trusted it. And that's why riders didn't just call it powerful, they called it the Widowmaker. For many weekend riders, the TM400 was supposed to be the next step up, a proud upgrade from their 200s and 50s. They'd saved up, convinced themselves they were skilled enough, and rolled the yellow beast off the trailer with a grin. The first few laps often went fine. Cautious throttle, smooth corners, nothing scary. Then came the first long straight. One twist too deep, and the rear tire broke loose like it hit oil. The back end fishtailed, the bars snapped sideways, and the rider was airborne before he could even shut the throttle. Stories like that were everywhere. Some guys walked away with bruises and pride shattered. Others ended up with broken bones. Many quietly sold their TM400s within 2 or 3 weeks, muttering that they'd stick with something smaller. The jokes came fast, grim, funny, and painfully true. You don't ride a TM400, you survive it. Want to meet your orthopedic surgeon early? Buy a TM400. It didn't have a power band, it had an on-off switch. Those lines weren't exaggerations, they were coping mechanisms. Even professional racers, the ones who could harness its wild power, admitted the handling was unpredictable. They swapped shocks, rejetted carbs, softened ignition timing, anything to tame the beast. Some managed, most didn't bother. As one racer put it, it was fast enough to win, but mean enough to kill you trying. Today, the TM400 lives on in memory with a strange mix of fear and affection. The men who rode them still laugh about their scars, proud, in a way, that they survived what many others wouldn't dare touch. Younger riders look at it differently, a reckless monument to an era when too much power was still considered a compliment. When stacked against its European rivals, the TM400's flaws became painfully clear. Husqvarna, CZ, and Maiko were building bikes with power every bit as fierce, but smoother, more predictable, and perfectly matched to their chassis. Their engineers tuned suspension and frame geometry like craftsmen, shaping machines that flexed just enough to grip the ground without betraying the rider. Suzuki's TM400, by contrast, felt like someone had bolted a Grand Prix engine into a frame that hadn't gotten the memo. It had the heart of a champion trapped inside a body that wasn't ready for the fight. Even Japan's other brands knew better balance. Honda and Yamaha both produced open-class brutes of their own, but their behavior followed a certain logic. Wild, yes, but learnable. A good rider could grow into them, anticipate their quirks, even master them. The TM400 didn't give you that chance. It punished confidence as quickly as it rewarded bravery. The real problem wasn't raw power, it was imbalance. European bikes evolved step by step. Every increase in horsepower was matched by better suspension, brakes, and control. Suzuki tried to leap ahead all at once, and the rest of the machine simply couldn't keep up. That's why the TM400 wasn't just powerful, it was a masterclass in how brilliance, when rushed, can turn into chaos. In Hamamatsu, Suzuki's engineers didn't ignore what happened. The TM400 had proved one hard truth: horsepower alone doesn't sell motorcycles, rideability does. They realized that power means nothing if the average rider can't control it. What they needed wasn't a monster that scared people away, but a machine that made them faster, safer, and confident enough to keep coming back every weekend. The changes came quickly. The next generation of Suzuki motocross bikes featured stronger, more predictable frames that flexed in just the right places. The engineers reshaped the power band, smoothing out that violent, light switch delivery into something broader, more usable in the mid-range. It still pulled hard, but now it let riders stay in control instead of hanging on for survival. Suspension got a major overhaul too. Travel increased, damping improved, and the bikes no longer tried to buck their riders off over rough terrain. Bit by bit, Suzuki rebuilt its reputation from the ground up. By the late 1970s, those lessons came together in a new line, the RM series, RM 125, RM 250, RM 370. These bikes were lighter, sharper, and perfectly balanced. They didn't just win races, they made racing accessible. Suddenly, Suzuki stood alongside the best, known not for brutality, but for brilliance in control. Looking back, the TM400 wasn't a failure. It was a painful but necessary evolution. Without its chaos, Suzuki might never have built the RM line that defined a generation. Sometimes, the worst machines teach the best lessons. Decades after it left the showroom floor, the Suzuki TM400 Cyclone has become something rare, not for its performance, but for its story. An original, well-preserved example is hard to find today, and collectors know it. They don't chase it for trophies or lap times, but for the legend it carries. This is the infamous TM400. It's the bike that burned itself into motocross history, not for winning, but for refusing to be forgotten. Many of the people who own one now lived through that wild decade. To them, the TM400 is a memory in metal, a piece of the reckless 1970s sitting proudly in the garage. Others, devoted classic MX collectors, seek balance in their lineups. Not just the beloved heroes, but the infamous villains too. And then there are the brave few who still ride them, rebuilding, softening the suspension, and daring to relive that raw, unpredictable energy with modern friends. Would you dare to ride one of these beasts today? Or would you rather keep it behind glass, just to admire the madness?